Hi, I'm Brian, and I want to welcome you to the complete HTML and CSS course. In this course, we are going to learn how to build websites from a beginner to a professional level. By the end of the course, we are going to build a better Twitter. You don't need any previous coding or technical experience. This course is designed to be your first step to becoming a software engineer. We'll start with the basics of HTML and CSS and build our way up step by step. And along the way, you'll learn all the major skills that you need to create websites at a professional level. And don't worry about taking notes. I have created an HTML and CSS reference guide with everything we cover, and you can find it in our Discord resources channel. I will leave you the link in the video description down below. Before we start, I just want to let you know it took me 2 months to create this course, so please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And with that being said, let's get started. Well, I'm going to be using Windows, but you can use any operating system. Now, before we begin, we are going to need 2 pieces of software, a web browser and a code editor. Well, a web browser lets us view websites, and it's also going to let us preview the website we create in this course. You can use any web browser you like, but the most popular one for web development is Google Chrome. And a code editor lets us write HTML and CSS code. And you can also use any code editor you like, but the most popular one for web development is called Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code is free and easy to use. So let's go ahead and install Visual Studio Code. To download Visual Studio Code, just head over to codevisualstudio.com, and I will leave you the link in the video description down below, and you can just click on the link and it should take you to this official page right here. You can click on this download button right here and then choose your operating system. Since I'm on Windows, I'm going to choose Windows. I'm going to choose the Windows version right here. I'm going to click on it. Then I'm going to double click on the file. Then I accept the agreement. Next, next, next. And I'm going to create a desktop icon. Click on next and then install, and it should start the installation. Alright, so now we only have to wait for a couple of seconds and then Visual Studio Code will be installed. Alright, so now you can just click on the finish button right here. Now that we have installed our code editor, let's start by learning what HTML is. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. You don't have to worry about the exact meaning for now. Just know it's a tool we use to create websites. And every website from Google to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter uses a combination of HTML and CSS to create everything we see on the page. The easiest way to understand HTML is to think of it as giving instructions to a computer. We are telling the computer what to do step by step, then the computer follows our instructions to build the website. So the best way to learn HTML is by giving it a try. Well, now let's go ahead and create our very first HTML file and our very first website. So let's go ahead and open our File Explorer or whatever you call it, and we are going to create a new folder. So this folder is going to contain all the code for this course. So I'm just going to right click and new and folder, and I'm going to call this folder HTML underscore and CSS and underscore course. You can name it whatever you want. Press enter. So now we are going to open this folder in our code editor. So go ahead and open Visual Studio Code, and now click on this file icon right here and click on open folder right here, or you can just click on this file right here and you can just scroll all the way down here and click on open folder. Now, since I have created my folder on my desktop, so I'm just going to click on desktop and here is my folder. So I'm just going to click on it, and then I'm going to click on select folder, and it should open my folder in the code editor. So now we have our folder in our code editor. And now you can click on this yes, I chose the authors. Alright, so now let's go ahead and create our very first file. So click on this new file icon right here, and we'll call this first underscore website dot html, and make sure to add this .html at the end of the file. Well, now this .html at the end of the file tells the computer that this file contains HTML code rather than just text. As I said earlier, HTML is basically some instructions you give to the computer. So now you can press enter, and we are going to learn our very first instruction, which is less than p greater than, and it might autocomplete for you. But anyways, if it does not autocomplete for you, make sure to type less than / p then greater than. Well, this is an instruction to create a paragraph. Now, inside a paragraph, we are going to have our paragraph text. So you can type something like, this is a paragraph. Alright. Well, now let's save our file. To save your file in Visual Studio Code, you can just press Ctrl+S and it'll save your file. So just press Ctrl+S, and now your file has been saved. Well, now we are going to learn how to open our website in our browser. Well, to open our new website, we are going to go to the folder that contains our code. So head over to your File Explorer, or wherever you have your project folder, the folder that contains all of your code. So I have mine folder on my desktop, so I'm just going to click desktop, and now you can double click on the folder, and now double click on your HTML file, and it should immediately open your new website in your web browser. Well, now as you can see, you have a paragraph that says this is a paragraph. Perfect. Well, now let's go ahead and put the browser and the code editor side by side. So now we can see everything as we go. And when you look back at your code, you'll see that's exactly the instruction we gave to the computer. As you can see, HTML is actually pretty easy to understand. You give instructions to the computer, and the computer just follows them. For example, you can tell the computer to display a button on your website by typing less than button greater than, and as usual, it should autocomplete for you. If it does not autocomplete for you, you can type it manually, less than / button and greater than. Perfect. Well, this creates a button. Now inside a button, we'll have some text. You can type something like subscribe and press Ctrl+S to save. So now let's go ahead and refresh the website so it shows the latest version of our code. And voila, now our website is displaying a button just like we instructed the computer to do. And now you have a button on your page that says subscribe, and of course you can subscribe to WebGlow if you like this course. Alright, so let's keep on moving forward. The computer reads our HTML code from top to bottom. For example, if I put the button right here, let me cut it and place it right here at the top. So if I press Ctrl+S to save and refresh the browser, and now as you can see, it shows up at the top. If I place it back at the bottom, if I put it back at the bottom, let me cut it and put it right here and press Ctrl+S to save and refresh the browser one more time. So now as you can see, it shows up at the bottom. And that's exactly how HTML works. You give the computer some instructions and it just follows them. Well, now each thing we display on a web page is called an HTML element. A button is a type of HTML element, and a paragraph is a type of HTML element too. The word element is just the general term we use to describe anything that shows up on a page. And we are going to use the term element a lot throughout this course. Now I want to explain why we have to write all those less than symbol, greater than symbol, and all of these thing. I'm going to explain them to you right now. Well, they are actually called syntax. Basically, the rules we have to follow when writing HTML so the computer understands what we mean. And I'm going to show you an example of that. If I come here and remove this greater than and this one right here as well, if I remove this greater than symbol and press Ctrl plus S to save, now if I refresh my browser, and now as you can see, the paragraph and the button are gone. If I come back here again and add the greater than right here, I don't need this one, and come here and add the greater than symbol as well. So now if I press Ctrl plus S to save and refresh the browser one more time, now as you can see, the paragraph is back and the button is back as well. Perfect. And the reason the paragraph and button were gone earlier, it's because we were not following the proper syntax, so the computer did not understand what we mean. And if the computer cannot understand what you mean, it will not be able to tell the browser what to display on your page. So what exactly are syntax rules for HTML? This part of the code is called an HTML tag, and it basically tells the computer what we are trying to create. And we write a tag by starting with the less than symbol, the tag name, which basically tells the computer what we are trying to create, and then the greater than symbol. Now, every element consists of two tags, an opening tag and a closing tag. Well, the closing tag is the same as the opening tag, except it has a slash in front of the tag name, and that's how you can tell it's a closing tag. So you can think of the opening tag as the start of the button and the closing tag as the end of the button, and in between is the content. It's just the same for the paragraph. The paragraph has an opening tag and a closing tag, and between goes the content. So as long as you follow these HTML syntax rules, the computer will know what to do and display our elements on the web page. In this lesson, we are going to learn CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. So it's used to change the appearance of our HTML elements. So I've actually prepared a project that we can do in this lesson. So go to our Discord channel and scroll all the way down, then click on Design Template, and once you are in the channel, you can just click on this download icon, and once the download is complete, you can just double click on the file. I'm going to arrange this a little bit. Okay, perfect. All right, so now let's go ahead and create a new HTML file. So I'm going to call this HTML file subscription underscore card. Okay, that's pretty perfect. Subscription underscore card dot HTML. But it's up to you. You can name it whatever you want. You can call it whatever you want. Just make sure to add the .html
at the end of the file. Now press enter and perfect. Click on this icon to close this file explorer. So now it's time to open our HTML website. But first of all, we are going to create this bold text right here. And then we'll create this description right here. And then the button. And then we'll go ahead and we'll create this pretty looking card. As you can see, it has a pretty shadow, a pretty great looking shadow right here. So we are going to create all of these things just in a minute. All right, so first of all, let's create this bold text right here. So for that, we can use an H1, and I'm going to explain to you what the H1 stands for. So press enter. And now we can just copy this text because I don't want to write it. Actually, I don't really love writing things, so I'm just going to copy and paste and perfect. So now it's time to open our HTML website. Press Ctrl plus S to save. Now go to your file explorer and go to your project folder. I think I have mine on my desktop, so I'm just going to double click on it. Well, now I'm going to double click on my file and let me set this up by moving it to the top. All right. So now let me arrange this a little bit. Let me put it right here and this one too. All right, guys, so let me zoom in. Okay, so now I'm pretty sure you can see everything. All right, so now let me go ahead and explain this H1 element to you right now. Well, this H1 right here stands for hidden. And as you can see, when you hover over it, it says the H1 element represents a section hidden. So it stands for heading, and it's used to display the main heading of your web page, but you can also use it to display big bold text on your web page, just like this one. And there is H2, H3, H4, H5 to H6. There is no H7, there is no H10, so it's only from H1 to H6. And the H2 is smaller than the H1. The H3 is smaller than the H2. The 4 is smaller than the 3. The 5 is smaller than the 4. And the 6 it's even way smaller than the 5, 4, 3. So to show you a quick example of that, you can just come here and instead of 1, we can have 2 and come here as well. We can have 2 and press Ctrl plus S to save. Then refresh your browser. And here, as you can see, it's smaller than the H1. And if you change it to H3 and come here as well and press Ctrl plus S to save and refresh your browser. And as you can see, it's smaller than the H2. And you can also change it to the H4. If you change it to the H4 and Ctrl plus S to save, and it's smaller than the H3, and the 5 it's smaller than the 4, and the 6 it's smaller than the 5. We are going to use the H1 because we want to have a text similar to this one right here, similar to this text right here. So let me change this to H1. Press Ctrl plus S to save, refresh your browser. All right. Oh, wait a minute. I should put 1, not 2. All right, perfect. Next thing we are going to create will be a paragraph. So as I showed you earlier, to create a paragraph, just type less than, p, then greater than. Then inside it, we are just going to copy this text right here. Just copy it and then come here inside it. Just paste the text and there you go. Now let me arrange this a little bit so you can see everything. Okay, perfect. Let me put this here and this here and this right here. Okay. All right. So let me also put this down below here. Well, now press Ctrl plus S to save. Then refresh your browser. All right, perfect. So now next thing we are going to create will be this button right here. And after creating the button, and then we'll immediately style our HTML element. First of all, we'll style the button, and then we'll style this text right here, and then this H1 text right here. After styling the button and this text, we are going to create this pretty looking card right here with this shadow right here. All right, so now come down here, less than, button, and then greater than. Now inside a button, we are going to have the text subscribe. So subscribe. Okay. All right. So now press Ctrl plus S to save and refresh your browser. And here is our button. All right. So now next thing is we have to style our button and this text right here and this one right here. So I think it's time to write some CSS code. So to write CSS, we have to create a new element called the style element. So just type style and press enter. So this element is unique. So it doesn't appear visibly on the page. If you press Ctrl plus S to save and go to your browser and refresh the page. So as you can see, the style element doesn't actually create anything. So the purpose of this element is that inside this element, we can write CSS code. So now let's use CSS to style our button element. So to style our button element, inside this style element, type button and press enter. Then type opening curly brace, then closing curly brace. Then type enter. Well, now we are basically going to give instructions to the computer on how to modify the appearance of our button element. For example, we can change the background color of our button by typing background color, background dash color, and colon. Now we are going to set the background color of our button to blue. Just type blue, then type semicolon. Well, now if you refresh your browser, our button background color is now set to blue. Perfect. Well, as you can see, CSS is similar to HTML. We simply give instructions to the computer, and then the computer follows our instructions step by step. And just like HTML, we have to follow certain syntax rules when writing our CSS code so that the computer understands our code. So now, what are the syntax rules for CSS? Well, so the word in front right here, this button right here, is actually called a CSS selector. So it tells the computer which element on the page we are targeting with our CSS code. In this case, we are targeting all buttons on the page, and we are going to change the background color of all buttons on the page to blue. Now, inside these braces right here, there are actually rules that we have to follow. So the text to the left of this column right here, it's called the CSS property, and it tells the computer what we are changing. And the text to the right is the value, and it tells the computer what we are changing the property to. So in this case, we are changing the background color of our button to blue. So this is the property and this is the value. So now next thing we're gonna do, we are going to change the text color on our button. So to change the text color on our button, we are going to come down here. And by the way, make sure you type everything just as I did, so we are following the syntax rules for CSS. All right. So now type color, and press enter. It should autocomplete for you. And if it does not autocomplete for you, make sure you add this colon in front of the property name and then this semicolon at the end. And in between, we have to type the value. So as I said earlier, this is the property, and here we have to add the value. So I'm going to change the text color on our button to white so it can match this one right here. So just type white and press Ctrl plus S to save. Now let's go ahead and refresh our browser. And now, as you can see, our text color is now set to white. We've changed the text color to white. So what we just did is that we just changed the color, the text color on our button to white. So as I said earlier, CSS is just some instructions you give to the computer and the computer follows them. So we just told the computer, hey computer, I want you to change the text color on my button to white. So now we can go ahead and try to clone this button right here. So we are going to style our button to match this one right here. And then we are going to style this text right here to match this one right here. And then we are going to style our description right here to match this one right here. And then we are going to create this card right here with this pretty looking shadow right here as well. So we are going to achieve all of these things just in a second. All right, so let's go. So first of all, we are going to change the text size to match this one right here. As you can see, this one is way bigger and bold. So we are going to change the text size. Then we are going to make it bold just to match this one right here. So to change your text size, you can just come here, come down here, and type font dash size, press enter. It should autocomplete for you. Now we have to give it a value. So I want to change my text size to 15 pixels, and I'm going to explain to you what pixels stand for. But before that, press Ctrl plus S to save. And now if you refresh your browser, and as you can see, your text now has gotten bigger. Well, now for those who have never heard about pixels before, I'm going to explain to you what they are. Well, pixels are used to measure size on a screen. In CSS, we use them to define things like the font size, width, and height, which we are going to learn just in a minute. So for example, if you want to make your text even bigger, you can change it to maybe 20. If you refresh your browser, and as you can see, your text is now bigger. So I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller than that. So I'm going to change it to 17 pixel. Ctrl plus S to save. Now if I refresh, and let me reset this a little bit. I think I have to make it a little bit bigger than that. So I'm just going to change it back to 20 maybe, and refresh my browser. Okay, that's actually better. But if you take a look at this button right here, as you can see, the background color of this button is actually different from this one right here. So this background color is blue, while this background color is actually blue but a little bit lighter. It's like a sky blue maybe, right? So we want to change this background color to match this background color right here. So to achieve that, we can actually come here. This little box right here is like a color picker, so you can actually hover over it and you can just choose a color. So I'm just going to press and hold the right mouse button and drag it right here. I'm just going to pick a similar color. Let me see. I think, okay, yes, that's a little bit similar, right? So now you can press anywhere out of this little color picker right here. And now if you press Ctrl plus S to save and refresh your browser. So now, as you can see, this background color, it's a little bit similar to this one. So let me make sure you see everything. Okay, perfect. Let me arrange this a little bit right here. Well, now you may have noticed that after using the color picker, the background color changed to this RGB opening parentheses 0, comma 153, comma 255, closing parentheses and semicolon. So let me explain it real quick. This RGB means red, green, and blue. That's the order the numbers goes in. So the first number right here is red, and the second one right here means green, and the third one right here means blue. So red, green, and blue. So in our case, red is set to 0, so that means there is no red in the color, and green is set to 153, so that's actually like a medium amount of green, and blue is set to 255 to 55, so that's the highest number, so it's full blue. So when you mix green, blue with no red, you get this light blue color, kind of like a sky blue color. So when you mix green, blue with no red, you get this pretty light blue color right here. So just to show you an example of that, if you come here and you remove this 153 right here and you add a 0 instead and press Ctrl plus S to save, if you refresh your browser, and now as you can see you have a blue color, and if you come back here and add back the 153 value again and come here and remove this value to 0 and press Ctrl plus S to save, and if you come here and refresh your browser, now as you can see you have this pretty green color, and if you come back here and you remove this 153 and come here and let's add 255 or whatever value you want, and come here and add 0 right here and press Ctrl plus S to save and refresh our browser, and now our button background color is set to red. Now we have this red color, and if we come back here and remove this 255 value and set it to 0, now we have a black color because there is no red, there is no green, and there is no blue. So if there is no red, there is no green, and there is no blue, so the color will be set to black. So if you press Ctrl plus S to save and refresh your browser, your button background color is now set to black. So let's go ahead and change it to the light blue color one more time. So let's come here and type 153 and come here and type 255 and press Ctrl plus S to save and refresh our browser. And now, as you can see, now we have our light blue color one more time. Okay, well, we have noticed that our button actually has a border, while this one right here doesn't have a border. So we have to remove this border right here. And to remove our button border, we can come here and type border, the property name, press enter. Now we have to set the border to none, which means nothing. So press enter. Now if you press Ctrl plus S to save and refresh your browser, now as you can see, it no longer has the border anymore. So the border has been removed. Well, now if you want to add a border to your button, come here and just type 1 pixel or 2 pixels. It just depends on the size you want. So I'm going with 2 pixels and then type solid, or you can type dash or dotted just to get a different style. But I'm going with solid and I'm going with black. But you can choose red, green, yellow, whatever you want. So now let me break it down for you. The border property tells the browser you want to add a border around the button. And these 2 pixels right here means the border will be 2 pixels thick. And this solid right here mean the border is a solid line. This black right here is the color of the border. So you can change this to any color you want. You can change it to red, blue, or you can even use the RGB value, just like this one right here. You could also use an RGB value if you wanted to, but I'm going with black. Now, if you press Ctrl plus S to save and refresh your browser, and now as you can see, we have our button border back again. Now, what if you want to use a different style? So you can change the solid style to maybe dotted. Press Ctrl plus S to save. Now, if you refresh your browser, you now have a dotted style. Now, what if you change it to dash? So if you press Ctrl plus S to save and refresh your browser one more time, and now as you can see, your button border has a dash style. Well, since we want this button to match this one right here, so we have to remove the border. As I showed you earlier, to remove your button border or any element border, you only have to set the border property to none. So type none, press enter, Ctrl plus S to save, refresh your browser. So now as you can see, we've just removed our button border. Perfect. Well, the next style I'm going to change is the height. So our button is a little bit short, so I'm going to make it taller. So to make it taller, I'm going to change the height. I'm going to type height and I'm going to set the height to something like 70 pixels. I'm going to press Ctrl plus S to save. Refresh your browser. Um, that's a little bit too much. I'm just going to add 40 pixels. Press Ctrl plus S to save. Let me refresh to see. So let's look a little bit closer. So I think I'm going with maybe 41 or 42. Ctrl plus S to save. Let's refresh our browser. Okay, now let's keep working step by step to get our design. Next, we are going to adjust the width. Well, the width just tells the computer how wide the button should be from left to right. So let's go ahead and type width and set it to, let me see, maybe to 100 pixels. Press Ctrl plus S to save. Let's refresh our browser. Oh, that's too little, actually. So let's go with 200 pixels. Ctrl plus S to save. Okay, I think that's a little bit too much. So let's go with maybe 130. Let's see, let's refresh our browser. Oh, that's too little. Let's go with 140. Okay. Okay, so now next thing we're gonna do, we are going to make our button rounded. If you take a look at this button, you can see it's pretty rounded, right? So we are going to make this one rounded as well. So to achieve that, use the border radius property, type border radius, press enter, and now we can set it to 20 pixels. Press Ctrl plus S to save. If you refresh, and now as you can see, your button is pretty much rounded as well. The higher the pixels, the more round the corners will be. So for now, you can leave it at 20 pixels. Well, next thing I'm going to change is if we hover over this button right here, you get this hand whenever your mouse is over this button. So this hand is called a pointer. So to achieve that, come down here and type cursor, press enter, and you can set it to pointer and press Ctrl plus S to save. Now if you refresh your browser, and that's how you get this hand whenever your mouse is over this button. Well, now we have also noticed that the text on this button is bold and this one is not. To achieve that, we can use the font weight property. Come down here and type font dash weight, and we can set it to bold. You can set it to bold, or you can set it to a number value, like if we set it to 600 and press Ctrl plus S to save and refresh our browser. So now as you can see, it's a little bit bold. And if you change it to maybe 5, it'll be less bold. But if you change it to 7, it'll be even bolder. So if you refresh your browser, so now as you can see, it's even bolder. If we want to make it look just like this one, so we'll have to set it to bold. So I'm just going to set it to bold so it can be more bolder. So press Ctrl plus S to save. Now if you refresh your browser, so you should notice that it's even bolder. Well guys, now it's time to create a card similar to this one right here,
and place this text and this button inside it. And in order to create that card, we're gonna use the div element. Well, the div element is like a container. We use it to group stuff together on the page. By itself, a div doesn't really show anything special. It's just here to help organize things. It's super useful when you want to style sections of your page or move things around. And don't worry about it for now because we'll be using it a lot throughout this course. So you'll get used to it as we go. Let's go ahead and use our very first div to create a card similar to this one and place this text and this button inside it. So let's go ahead and scroll all the way down here and here type div and press enter. So now inside it, let's go ahead and copy this H1 right here. Let's cut it and paste it right here. And let's select and cut this paragraph as well. Let's come down here and paste it. And now the same for the button as well. Let's cut it and paste it right here. Okay, perfect. Let me make sure you can see everything. Organize it a little bit. And you can arrange this as you want. I'm just going to put my button right here. It doesn't really do anything. I just want to keep my code organized. So now just press Ctrl plus S to save. Now if you refresh your browser, you will not see anything because as I said earlier, it doesn't really show anything on the page. It just helps you organize your code. So now it's time to style it so it looks just like this one right here. So let's go ahead and style it with CSS. So down here, type div, just like we did with the button, opening curly brace and closing curly brace, enter. We'll change the background color to black. So let's go ahead and type background color and set it to black. If you press Ctrl plus S to save and refresh your browser, so now as you can see, you have your card and you cannot see the text anymore because the text color is black and the div background color is black as well. So that's the reason why you cannot see the text anymore. Let's go ahead and style this text so we can see them. So first of all, we'll style the H1 element. So type H1 and opening curly brace, closing curly brace, enter. Inside it, type color because we want to change the text color to white. So color, then colon, type white, then semicolon, press Ctrl plus S to save, refresh your browser. You can now see the text. So now the text color is set to white. So now let's go ahead and do the same for the paragraph as well. So come here and type P, opening curly brace, closing curly brace, enter, color, and colon. Let's set it to white as well. Semicolon, Ctrl plus S to save. Now if you refresh, you can also see the paragraph. Well, now let's keep styling the card. So let's go ahead and say width and press enter and let's set it to maybe 350 pixel. So press Ctrl plus S to save. Now refresh your browser. Oops. I mean, it's supposed to be 350. All right. So now let me refresh one more time. You know what? Let's go with 400 pixels. So it looks just like this one right here. So 400 pixel, Control plus S to save. Let's refresh. Okay, okay, okay. It's kind of look similar to this one. Now, next thing we're gonna do, we'll change the height. All right, so let's go ahead and change the height. So let's say height. Let's set it to maybe 250 pixels. Control plus S to save. Let's refresh. Oh my goodness, that's so much. Let's say 200 to see. Let's refresh. Okay, but anyways, I think that's a little bit too much. Let's go with 190. Control plus S to save. Refresh. Okay, not too bad. But anyways, I think that's too much. So let's go with 180. Okay, refresh. Okay, okay, not too bad. You know what? Let me give it a width of 420 pixels. So Control plus S to save, refresh. Okay, that's better. That's better. Now you may have noticed that the H1 text and the paragraph text were taking up a lot of space earlier. But ever since we added a div element, they only take up the space inside the div element. That's because the div is acting like a container. It controls how much space its content can use. So now everything inside stays inside a div element, and we can control those elements much better with CSS. The next thing we want to do is add some space inside this card around these elements. If you take a look at this design right here, you will see there is a lot of space inside this card around these elements. And there is also a lot of space outside the card too. So the space inside of an element is called padding, and the space outside of an element is called margin. So let's go ahead and add some space inside this card as well, around these elements. So since the space inside of an element is called padding, so let's go ahead and add some padding to our card. First of all, we'll add some space inside of the card at the top. So to add some space at the top, we can just come here and say padding tab dash tab. Make sure to type it the way I did and press enter. And I'm just going to set it to 5 pixels. Press Ctrl plus S to save. Now if you refresh your browser, as you can see, you now have some space inside your card at the top. So I think 5 pixels is too much actually. Let's go with 1. Ctrl plus S. Okay. I also want to add some space inside of the card to the left. So I'm just going to type padding left, padding dash left. Then I'm going to set it to 2 pixels. Ctrl plus S to save. Now if you refresh your browser, oops, that's too little. So let's go with 5. Ctrl plus S to save. Refresh. Okay. Let's go with 10. Now if you refresh, okay, that's pretty good. And I will also add some space to the right as well. So padding right, here it is. And I'm going to set it to 5 pixels. Ctrl plus S to save. Now you can refresh your browser. Okay, and I'm also going to add some space at the bottom inside the card, but at the bottom. So type padding bottom. Here it is. Press enter. I'm going to set it to 5 pixels as well. So Ctrl plus S to save. Now you can refresh your browser, and we now have some space at the bottom as well. So now I want to add some space outside a card, outside of the div element, but at the top. So to achieve that, you can use the margin property. Like I said earlier, the space outside of an element, it's called margin, and the space inside of an element, it's called padding. So since I want to add some space outside of the element, which is the div element, which is our card, so I'm just going to use margin. So I'm going to type margin dash top. I'm going to press enter, and I'm going to set it to 20 pixels. Ctrl plus S to save, refresh. You know what? I'm just going to set it to 35 pixels. Ctrl plus S to save. You can refresh. All right, that's pretty good. So I'm also going to add some space outside of the card, but to the left. So I'm just going to type margin dash left, and I'm going to press enter, and I'm going to set it to maybe 30 pixels. Ctrl plus S to save, refresh your browser. Okay, that's pretty good. If you take a look at this design again, you will see the corners are actually rounded. So to achieve that, we can use the property we used earlier, which is the border radius. So we can type border radius, and we can set it to maybe, let's say 15 pixels. Remember, we used the border radius earlier. We actually used it here on our button. So it's just the same thing. Just press Ctrl plus S to save and refresh your browser. Okay, it's pretty good. Well, guys, now next thing we're gonna do, we're going to change the paragraph size. So let's go ahead and use the font size property to change the paragraph size. So let's come down here and font size, font dash size, and press enter. So now we'll set it to maybe 17 pixels. Now if you refresh your browser, okay, I think I'm going with let's say 20 pixels. Ctrl plus S to save, refresh your browser. Okay, so now next thing we're gonna do, we'll change the text color, because if you take a look at this text right here, you can see the color, it's actually like a gray color. So let's try to change this paragraph color. Okay, so let's come here. You know what, I'm just going to use my color picker. So let me choose maybe this color. You can choose any color you want actually. Okay, Ctrl plus S to save and refresh. Let me go with something more lighter. Okay, okay. Well, now as you can see, the button is actually trying to pop out of the card, which is its container. That's because there is so much space inside a container and the button cannot fit properly. And the reason for this is that the browser adds some default spacing to the page automatically.
Alright, so to fix that weird spacing and make sure our layout looks exactly how we want, we need to remove the browser's default margin and padding. So to remove the browser's default spacing, we'll use the universal selector. So let's go all the way up here, and here on top we are going to type star. So this is called an universal selector in CSS. Well, the universal selector targets every element on the page. Type opening curly brace and closing curly brace, then type enter. So now we'll set margin and padding to 0. So type margin, press enter. Now set it to 0, and down here type padding and set it to 0 as well. So now it'll remove the default margin and the default padding. So if you press Ctrl plus S to save and refresh your browser, so now as you can see, the default spacing has been removed. So now we can also add another property called box sizing. So type box sizing and set it to border box. Well, this box sizing border box makes it easier to control the size of elements when we use padding and borders. So now you don't really have to worry about it. Actually, you can just use it. As I said earlier, it just makes it easier to control the size of elements when we use padding and border. So whenever you want to remove the browser's default spacing, you can just use the universal selector and set margin to 0, padding to 0, and set box sizing to border box. So now you can press Ctrl plus S to save and refresh your browser. So now as you can see, the browser's default spacing has been removed. So now we have to add some margin to the H1 element. And remember, the space outside the element is called margin, and the space inside the element is called padding. So since we want to add some space outside the H1, so we'll use margin. So let's go ahead and here. So I want to add some space outside the H1 at the bottom. So to achieve that, you can just type margin bottom and we'll set it to 10 pixels. I think that's too much. But anyways, let's refresh the browser. Okay, that's not too much. So as you can see, we now have some space outside the H1 at the bottom. So now we'll do the same thing for the paragraph as well. So we'll add some space outside the paragraph at the bottom. So let's come here, and down here we can type margin bottom and we'll set it to 10 pixels as well, I guess. Ctrl plus S to save. Now if you refresh your browser, so I think I'm going with 13 pixels. Ctrl plus S to save. Refresh your browser. Okay, you know what, I think I'm going to add a margin bottom of 18 pixels to the H1 element. So let me come here, and instead of 10 pixels, so let's add 18 pixels. Ctrl plus S to save. Okay, so now as you can see, our subscription card is pretty similar to this one right here. It's pretty similar. The only difference is when you hover over this button right here, you can see the background color change to white and the text color change to black. Well, to achieve that effect, we are going to reuse our button selector, but add something called a pseudo class. So type colon, and that pseudo class will be hover. Well, a pseudo class is a special keyword you add to a selector that lets you style an element only in a certain state, like when someone hovers their mouse over it. So now you can type opening curly brace and closing curly brace, type enter. So now inside it, we can say we want to change the background color when someone hovers over it. So we can say background color, we can set it to white. So now if we press Ctrl plus S to save and refresh our browser, so now if we hover over it, so now as you can see, the background color is now set to white. If we hover over it again, the same thing will happen. So we can also set the text color on our button to black when someone hovers over it. So we can type color, we can set it to black when someone hovers over our button. So press Ctrl plus S to save. Now if you refresh your browser and hover over it again, so now as you can see, the background color is now set to white and the text color on our button is now set to black. Well, now when hover over this button right here, you see a smooth delay animation. That's because we're using the transition property. The transition property tells the browser to make changes happen slowly and smoothly instead of instantly. So to achieve that, we can come back here and type transition colon. Now you can set it to 3 second, 3s. It's mean 3 second, then semicolon. So now let me break it down for you. When we write transition 3 second, it means the change will take 3 seconds to complete. So if you now press Ctrl plus S to save and refresh your browser, and now if you hover over your button again, so now you can see this smooth animation. Well, guys, I think we actually have to add some space on top of the H1 element. So I think we have to add some margin on top of the H1 element. So let's go ahead, let's come here and say margin tab, and let's set it to maybe 3 pixels so it matches this design right here, because as you can see, we actually have some space on top of this H1 element. So press Ctrl plus S to save. Now refresh. Okay, that's pretty much it. You know what? I'm just going to add 5 pixels instead. Ctrl plus S to save. Now refresh. Okay. And actually, instead of setting margin bottom to 18 pixels, I'm going to set it to 15 pixels instead. So 15 pixels. Ctrl plus S to save. Now, if you refresh your browser, okay, now it's better. Perfect. And guys, as I said, you don't really have to copy all of this code. I have actually created an HTML and CSS reference guide with everything we cover in this course. And you can find it in our Discord resources channel. I will leave you the link in the video description down below.
Well, guys, now next thing we're gonna do, we are going to add a shadow to the card. So just like this card, we are going to add a shadow to this one right here as well. So to achieve that, we can actually come here and down here we can type box shadow. Here it is. Type enter, and first of all we'll type 10 pixels, 10 pixels, 20 pixels, 10 pixels, then black. You know what? I'm just going to use the color picker to pick a color instead. So I'm just going to choose like a gray color. I think this one would work. So make sure you choose a color similar to mine. You can choose like a gray color or whatever color you want, but make sure you add a color similar to mine. So I'm just going to choose like a gray color, like this one. Let me see. Okay, this one. Okay. I'm just going to press Ctrl plus S to save. And now, as you can see, we have added a shadow to our card. Now, let me go ahead and explain everything to you right now. So, the box shadow property adds a shadow behind the box. And the first number, which is the 10 pixel right here, moves the shadow to the right. And the second number right here, which is also another 10 pixels, so it moves the shadow down. It moves the shadow down here. So this 20 pixels right here actually makes the shadow look blurry, and a bigger number makes it even more blurry. And the fourth number, which is this 10 pixels right here, actually makes the shadow bigger, and a negative number would make it smaller. So if you want to add a negative number, you can just come here and add the minus symbol and press Ctrl plus S to save and refresh. So now, as you can see, the shadow is even smaller. So let's just remove this symbol and press Ctrl plus S to save and refresh the browser again. So now, as you can see, we have our shadow back. And lastly, this color right here is actually the shadow's color. So now I'm pretty sure that you know how to add shadow to any HTML element. Perfect. Hi guys, welcome to this second lesson where we learn about HTML structure. HTML structure means the correct way to write HTML code so the computer can understand it. And I know we have written a couple of HTML codes earlier, but when making a real website, you follow proper order. So first of all, we create a new HTML file and we usually name it index.html. The reason why we name it index is because most browsers and web servers look for a file named index.html when opening a website. So this file is the first one they load. That means this index.html is like your home page, like the main page of your website. So press enter. So at the very top of your file, type less than
exclamation mark, then type doc type, HTML, then greater than. So now this line tells the browser that this is an HTML5 page, which is the latest version of HTML. So it helps the browser understand how to read and show your website correctly. Then next, type less than HTML length equal double quotes, and inside these double quotes you can just type en, and then you can type greater than and press enter. This line starts the HTML document. The length equal double quotes en means the language is English. So this helps browsers and tools know what language the page uses. And next, type less than, head, then greater than. Press enter. The head is where we put information about a page that we don't see directly on the website. So inside of the head element goes everything that we don't want to show on the web page, such as the web page title, which gets shown on the browser tab right here, and the style element we've been using earlier, and also some other metadata. So now inside the head element, type less than meta space choset enter equal double quotes, and here we'll type U T F in uppercase, then type the minus symbol, then 8. Then you can type greater than. Well, this line says the page uses UTF-8 character encoding. This means the page can show letters, numbers, and symbols from almost any language. Then right below here, type less than meta name equal viewport, then space, and right here type content, press enter equal double quotes, and inside these double quotes, first of all, let me close this file explorer right here. Okay, so now we have more space. So now inside these double quotes we can type width equal device dash width, then comma, type initial dash scale equal 1.0, and then you can type greater than. And actually you can remove these double quotes right here, but do not remove this one. Make sure to remove this one as well. You don't have to worry about this code. You can write it all by only typing exclamation mark and pressing enter. And I'm going to teach you that later on. So now this line makes the page look good on phones, tablet, and computers. It actually sets the page width to match the device screen size and sets the zoom level to normal. Without this, the page might look too small or even too big on phones. So next, come down here and type less than title, then press greater than. Then inside it, you can type your website title. So I'm just going to type my website title, This line sets the title of the page. The title is what you see on the browser tab. Alright, so now if you press Ctrl plus S to save and go to your project folder and double click on your folder, you should be able to see your index HTML file. So just double click on it. And now, as you can see, you have a blank page because we don't have anything yet on that page. And if you head over to your browser tab, you should see a title, my website title. Perfect. So this closing tag right here closes the head section. This is the head section. So whatever you don't want to show on your page goes inside the head section. Alright, so now right here, type less than, body, then greater than. It should auto complete it for you. So let me make it bigger so you can see. Alright, so now press enter. Well, inside of the body section is where all the visible content goes, such as text, images, buttons, and everything you want people to see on their page. Now, if you want, you can display something on your page. So, for example, we can use an H1 to display a message like, "Hello, WebGlow." Now, if you press Ctrl plus S to save and refresh your browser, so now as you can see, we have a message on our web page that says "Hello WebGlow." And you can even add more content because, as I said, everything you want to show on your page goes inside the body section. And everything you don't want to show on your page, such as the style element and title metadata, goes inside of the head section. This closing tag right here actually closes the body section. This closing tag right here closes the entire HTML document. So with that being said, let's go ahead and head over to your subscription underscore card HTML file. I want you to copy all of these CSS style. You can cut it if you want, but I'm just going to copy it. Come here inside the head section and paste it. Perfect. So let me make sure you can see everything. Let me make it even bigger so you can see everything because I want you to see everything. All right, so now I want you to head over to your subscription underscore card HTML file again. I want you to copy this entire div element with its content and come back here again. Now, inside a body, I want you to remove this H1 element right here because I think we don't really need it anymore. So you can just delete it. And now you can just paste it. Perfect. Let me arrange this one a little bit. Okay. Just to make it look good. Okay, perfect. So now everything we want to show on the page goes inside a body section, as you can see. And everything we don't want to show on the page goes inside the head section. All right, so now let me put this back here again. Okay, now if you press Ctrl plus S to save and refresh your browser one more time. So now, as you can see, we have the subscription card in the index HTML page as well. But now it's even better because we are using proper structure, proper HTML structure. So if you take a look here again, you will still have your card, but the card that we have here in the index HTML page, it's better The reason why I say it's better, it's because we are using proper HTML structure. Well, guys, that's how we close part 1 and part 2 of our full HTML and CSS course. So make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to WebGlow so you don't miss the upcoming parts. Well, in the next part, we'll learn a better way to write CSS. I will teach you how to create a CSS file and how to use it in our project. Then we'll create a login form. After that, we'll learn about the Flexbox layout. Finally, we'll start building our Twitter clone project. With that being said, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to WebGlowCademy so you don't miss the upcoming parts. Bye.